Happy February 1st. It's Love Month and Black History Month. And I hope you have great plans. This is leap year, so we have an extra day. All right. What two heroes are we going to read about today? Arthur Ashe. Yes, Arthur Ashe. I think there's an elementary school in the Chatham area of Chicago that's still named after him. He was born 1943 and died 1993. He only was alive for 50 years? Oh, he seemed much older than that. He only had a half a century of life, but he accomplished so much. Let's read about him. Growing up in segregated Richmond, Virginia, a black boy like Arthur was unlikely to play tennis, a historically white sport. Fortunately, his father was the caretaker of a park that had facilities for black people. Young Arthur had a racket in his hands by age, what age you think? 6, yes. As he got older, segregation and other forms of discrimination kept him from regular training, but he met Dr. Robert Walker Johnson, who ran a tennis camp in Lynchburg for black athletes, including women's champion Althea Gibson. Both Dr. Johnson and Arthur's father were disciplined and strict. Ooh, we need it. They taught him to always keep his cool. Black athletes had to live by a high standard because their actions on the court had real-world consequences. Oh, if there is such a time as now that our youth have to be taught how to hold their composure and be cool. Yeah, because there are real-life consequences on the court and away from the court, and they have to see the connection. I have some students who are improving in that respect, but in a larger sense, they have to really have that under their belt before getting in these streets. Yeah, with the South African Open, Arthur found his opportunity to use his voice. At the time, South Africa practiced a form of segregation known as apartheid, and the government wouldn't let him into the country to compete. Arthur spoke out. He even testified in front of Congress saying athletes, especially black athletes, must use every resource at their command to right things that are wrong. In 1973, South Africa finally let Arthur enter the country and play in the tournament. Over the years, Arthur continued to use his voice to bring attention to racism around the world. Isn't this excellent? Yes. In the 1980s, Arthur contracted HIV during heart surgery. He kept his diagnosis a secret until 1992. He used it as an opportunity to speak out for the rights of HIV-positive people, including those like him with full-blown AIDS. He kept speaking out for underrepresented people until he passed away in 1993. Arthur proved that even a quiet person can be a big voice for change in the world. Yeah. Doesn't matter your stature. If you have a heart, you have passion for something, then it's important for you to contribute. Oh, this used to be someone I used to like, this model designer, Andre Leon Talley, 1949. Was it 2 years ago that he passed? You remember the guy who would always be, he would be associated with Vogue magazine. Yeah, he died January 18th, 2022. Yeah, 2 years ago. He would wear these drapes, and he was the creative director and editor at large at Vogue. Anyway, Andre grew up with an appreciation for style. He was raised by his grandmother, a domestic worker in Durham, North Carolina. Even though they didn't have much, they took care of what they had. With clothes freshly pressed, they went to church every Sunday. Attending a black church in the South was almost like going to a fashion show, and Andre saw how clothing could make people feel different. With the right outfit, folks in his small town could transform into aristocrats. He found his first copy of Vogue magazine at the library and soon had stacks of his own, with pages pinned to his bedroom walls. He earned a scholarship to attend Brown University, where he studied French literature and befriended art students at the nearby Rhode Island School of Design. Andre developed his now iconic sense of style, donning capes and fedoras, and found his creative voice writing a column for the RISD newspaper. After graduation, he moved to New York and met his idol, Diana Vreeland, the visionary former editor-in-chief of Vogue. She was heading up the Costume Institute at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. As an intern there, he impressed her so much that she took him under her wing, becoming his mentor and friend. In 1983, he got his first role at Vogue, for which he traveled to fashion shows around the world. 5 years later, he became creative director of the magazine, and in 1998, he became editor-at-large. The fashion industry has historically been dominated by a white high society, with Vogue magazine as its foremost publications, and for years, Andre, a 6'6" Black man from North Carolina, was one of its leading voices. Despite rising in the fashion ranks, Andre has always stayed grounded. He has actively advocated for diversity in the fashion industry. The people who influenced Andre the most, his grandmother and Mrs. Vreeland, showed him unconditional love, and that is what he reflects back into the world. Andre proved that grace and kindness are always in style. Yeah, I know that there was some controversy toward the end. It was a lot, but he was so, I know he and Anna Wintour fell out, and there were some other things, but anyway, he was a force in the fashion world. I know that there's something with the housing. It doesn't matter. He did some great things while he was alive. And Prince, 1958 to 2016, with two musician parents. Prince Rogers Nelson grew up in Minneapolis, surrounded by music. He began playing piano and wrote his first song at 7. He eventually taught himself to play guitar, bass, and drums. His parents divorced when he was 12 years old, shook up his home life. To make matters worse, he suffered from epilepsy and was teased at school for being so small. He was shy and insecure, but all his troubles fell away when he focused on music. As a teen, Prince started his first band, Grand Central, to counteract his insecurities. He wore flashy clothes and was as loud, wild, and weird as possible when he performed. His music was a mix of funk, disco, rock, rhythm, and blues, and gospel. No one ever heard anything like him before, and producers fought to sign him to a record deal. In 1979, he started a new band, The Revolution, whose members were black, white, male, and female. When they performed, they all dressed to impress, and sometimes the men wore clothes designed for women, and the women wore clothes designed for men. This made more people uncomfortable, but his fans were inspired to do what they wanted and be themselves, no matter what others thought. Prince and the Revolution made some of the best-selling albums ever, including Parade, 1999, and Purple Rain, the soundtrack to the movie Purple Rain, starring Prince. In 1984, Prince became one of the few artists with both a #1 album and #1 movie, and he even won both a Grammy and an Oscar. Prince liked to change things up all the time, and each change fueled his creativity. He made waves for his bold choices, and he's remembered as much for his flashy style and big personality as for the many songs he wrote. He always tried to help people in his community and even mentored up-and-coming artists. He was a virtuoso musician, composer, and vocalist, and will go down in history as one of music's greats. Show love. I tell you, we have Prince, we have Andre Leon Talley, both of them passed, and Arthur Ashe, all three of them. But I tell you, they were young men. They really impacted so many people out here. We still sing, some of us sing, and I love Prince songs, Color Purple, and Purple Passion or whatever. And he was just a genius, like so many other musicians, African American. All right, let's get inspired. Let's get creative, whether it's fashion, music, tennis. Let's get moving and creating. Enjoy.